joining us today on Feelin Good, sponsored by Warren County Community Services. Well, welcome to my condo. We are coming to you today via Zoom. And actually, I would like to first introduce our guest, MaryEllen Haynes, and then tell you a little bit about what we have been covering in Zoom classes. I have to tell you this. This last week was the 5th week of the Miami University ILR classes, which is Institute of Learning in Retirement. And this was our fall term, which we usually have in person at Miami and Oxford, Miami and Hamilton, the VOA Learning Center in Westchester, and so on. However, due to the pandemic and the quarantine, we decided that we would try an experiment and do the whole ILR series here in the fall, and that included 50 classes offered all online. And the classes came to us in our own living rooms or our own dens and so on via WebEx. Actually, Miami used WebEx. But this was my learning space. So you are seeing exactly where I took my 7-8 classes each week. And one of my favorites, and I know ILR's favorites, was the class called Travel with Friends. And Travel with Friends was hosted and is hosted today by MaryEllen Haynes. She did the traveling and she coordinated the friends group that went on several different trips. And so today I am delighted to thank MaryEllen for joining us and sharing the most recent Travel with Friends tour and give us a little background on why they decided to go when they went, why they decided the country they chose, just the value of travel to MaryEllen and her group of friends, and then share with us a delightful slideshow that she shared in the ILR class. So let me turn the program over now. I'm so grateful for MaryEllen joining us, and I know that you're going to enjoy this as well. Thanks, MaryEllen. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Shelley. It's great to be here on Zoom with you and share this great experience. So I'm not sure how to proceed. Did you want to ask me questions or?
I would, I think our audience would like to know, how many trips have you taken with this group of friends and maybe the travel group, and explain, a little explanation in terms of the format of the tour guide and your immersive travel experience.
Well, the group that we travel with, the company, is called Overseas Adventure Travel. It's an arm from Grand Circle. A lot of people travel with Grand Circle, but this is their adventure group. They never take more than 16 people, and you have to be able to walk unassisted for 3 miles a day. Now, it really isn't terribly grueling, but you couldn't go if you weren't able to do that. What I love about this company is that we're always immersed in the culture. It's not just driving by famous places and on a bus of 50 people, and we have meals with people in their homes. We visit schools. We get to know the people, and I love that about this company. So I think I'm starting to lose track. I think that we have been on 7 trips. I think this was our 7th. And we often think, oh, we've really traveled a lot. And actually, as we introduce ourselves to one another, somebody else has been on 17, and you're, oh my gosh. But it's a wonderful company. They do not have trips in North America. So it's all around the world, every other continent. We've really enjoyed it. So we've gone with different groups of our friends. But this particular one, we had 4 other people with us from Lebanon. And it was Barbara and Neil Bronson, who traveled on most of them with us. And then Marilyn McMurray and Joanne Buchanan joined us on this. So there were 15 in our group, and we made up 6.
Very good. Well, I would think that the immersive concept of the tour would be so valuable in getting to know. I mean, you become ambassadors for the United States to whatever country you travel to. And in turn, when you actually get to know people from a different culture, a different race, a different region of the country, and so on, you kind of look at issues, be they global issues or just, differences in a completely different way. Correct?
That's absolutely true. And one of the huge benefits of traveling like this, I would recommend that people travel outside our country anytime they can. But in this particular group, we really we are exposed to perspectives of life, of family, of religion that we might never have been. And we're always encouraged by the tour leaders to ask any questions we want, not to worry about offending, or they are willing to answer any question. Sometimes they shush us if we are in a community that we shouldn't be asking that question. So we'll talk about it on the bus. But they always do answer, and they answer very honestly. The other thing is that the tour leaders have to be from the country we're visiting. So, that is a benefit, I think.
Very good. Well, I think that as we were talking earlier, aside from just the entertainment value of travel, I think it's so timely to become more aware of the commonalities of diversity, equity, inclusion, that has risen to the top of national issues, I think, here in the U.S. and globally.
Right. Very
well,
much so.
Let's hear about why did you choose the country you chose, and so on. What was your planning?
When we go on these trips, of course, it's a small group, so we get to know each other very well. And one of the questions that always comes up sometime during the trip is, what's been your favorite? Because these are almost always, they've taken many different trips with many different companies, but they seem to really like overseas adventure travel, as do we. And we always say, what's your favorite? Where are you going to go next? Why'd you choose that? That kind of thing. So a few years ago, a couple that we had gone on a couple of different trips with said, they told us they loved Patagonia. That wasn't even on our list at all. And they loved Costa Rica, and they especially loved Vietnam. And he's a bit older than we are, and he was in the Vietnam War as my husband was drafted. So really, you liked Vietnam? Was it okay as a former GI to go there? We're like, yes, you really should go. It's fantastic. So we went to Patagonia. It was awesome. We went to Costa Rica on their recommendation. So we decided, let's go to Vietnam. And we like to travel in the winter. It's going to be warm there. So we went. mid-January last year in 2020, and we were gone about a month. It was a very intense, a very wonderful trip. Fantastic. I don't have one regret. It was wonderful.
So you were traveling right before the rather global quarantine.
Right. And Vietnam is, it abuts China. And tourism is a huge industry for Vietnam. And the Chinese are their number one tourists. They're the biggest group. And so it was very impressive, Shelley, that they were on this quarantine. They were on this illness immediately. They closed their country to China in December. And then it just so happened that their big, huge holiday, the Tet, is right after our Christmas. It's the Lunar New Year, and it lasts for a month. So in December, which would have been early for them, they closed all of their schools. They stopped tourism from China, and the schools were closed throughout the time we were there. Of course, in the Asian countries, they all wear masks anyway. That's just one of the things they do. But we were given masks. We probably went through a gallon of hand sanitizer. And so there were no problems. And amazingly, by Memorial Day, I read in the paper that Vietnam had only 300 cases and no deaths whatsoever. And it is a very crowded country. So, whoa, they took some really good precautions, and they were, of course, very strict about it. And our tour leader said, this is great. It's hurting our tour industry, but the good thing is you're going to get into every place you want to go and not have to fight lines or other people. Right? But really and truly, even though we were starting to hear about it a little bit when we left, I was not concerned. Some of my travel mates wore masks in the airports, and I was very cavalier about that. But believe me, when we came home, it was, we knew that it was getting a lot more serious and showing up all over the world. So.
Right. Well, I am delighted and looking forward to, even though I've seen this slideshow, I loved it so much. And I have to say this to our audience. Another benefit of ILR being online was the day that I had Travel with Friends class. It was the same day that my grandkids come to the condo and spend the day with grandma, or half a day. And so my granddaughter, because my grandson started kindergarten, but my granddaughter joined us, and she became kind of like a mascot, I think, of the intergenerational opportunities of ILR. She would sit here on the couch with me, and she'd start drawing pictures of MaryEllen's photos, the slides. She would start sketching, and she still talks about, Vietnam and Cambodia, and she's 5. So, and yesterday we had a trip. I said, we're going to Australia. That was yesterday. And so we were still talking about that last night. So just the fact that she had an opportunity to meet you, MaryEllen, and then also the fact that she really felt then like she was kind of part of the class.
Oh, that's so sweet. And she was darling, Shelley, of course, right? Our grandchildren are all darling.
Okay, very good. Well, let's see what you saw and hear what your comments and so on about Vietnam.
Okay, well, first I think we should say that when I did this for the Miami University ILR, it was a 4-session class. So I have over 4 hours of slides. I just took a few out because I don't think we have that much time, right, Shelley?
Although, Joe always says, you can go as long as you want to but anyway, today we are limited. So I appreciate the fact that you sort of condensed your slides and condensed your talk.
I condensed it a great deal.
Okay.
So, are you ready for me to start?
Sure.
Okay, so we landed in Hanoi by way of Hong Kong and Los Angeles on the eve of Tet. So it was really exciting to be there because the fresh flowers were everywhere. The lights were fantastic. It was just lovely. And so I see, okay, I'm going to have to look over here to the side to see what Joe has up for us. The first thing we did after a good night's sleep and some food, we went to the home of a master puppeteer, water puppeteer. This specific art form has been in place for well over 1,000 years. And it's called water puppetry because it's performed in a lake. That's the way it was traditionally, and even today, it's performed in a lake. It's like, what? I don't get this. Right. So in this photograph, you see the puppeteer standing in front of the backdrop, and as the puppets were, and I did have videos of this, but we weren't able to use it for the show. He is actually behind there in and waiters. He made this stage in the third floor of his apartment so he could bring school children and groups like ours to see what this is like without having to perform it on a lake. And he also uses this particular thing, it's somehow portable, and he takes it to schools and, travels around with it so today's children get to see what it's like. But the puppets themselves are designed, they're very historic figures. So I'm trying to explain, or I will try to explain how he did this. So he's standing in front of that stage, but during the puppet show, he's behind that. You can't see him at all. And he's under the water. He's submerged pretty much. So in the lake, sometimes they are submerged, depending on how deep the lake is. The people sit on the shore to watch this. There are musicians who play the music, and then these puppets, they're on long poles, and they're maneuvered that way in the water. So here we are in his workshop, and he's showing us how he carves these puppets. Some he has are very, very old, but they're hollow inside, and the gears work to make them move. There were dances of phoenixes, there were races of bulls, there were dragons moving on the water. This particular puppet he's holding was the master of ceremonies. So, he talked to us as the audience. But it was just absolutely fascinating. And I don't know if I explained very well what this looked like, but it was amazing. So that's the very first thing we saw.
And were many of these events and sites that we're going to see as a result of the celebrating Tet, or are they things that normally, are there year round?
Yeah, no, they're there year round. What made the difference with Tet would have been like the crowds, because they weren't working. This particular picture he has up now is, we went to the Center of Learning, the oldest university in Hanoi, in all of Vietnam. And so inside this university is several temples, and this is a Buddhist altar. There were many, many, many. So because of Tet, they're even more decorated. People are bringing food, they're bringing flowers to present to the Buddhist altars for Buddha. And I didn't know there were many different Buddhas. So each altar Buddha looked a little different for a different one. But yeah, that would have been, people were all dressed up. Many people wearing red because that's the sign of light and prosperity and warmth and all that. So yeah.
You mentioned that, I think I had asked, how were you received? And you said their hospitality was amazing.
We were received very warmly, very, very well. And we even had the opportunity to ask many different people, like we went to a cemetery. This isn't it. Let me back. I'll answer that in just a minute. But this particular slide, we went to the park. It's more like Washington, D.C., if you want to call Washington, D.C. a park. But this is the monument to Ho Chi Minh. And this whole area was dedicated to him. And this is his tomb, actually. So that's where we were there. But we went to, I'll talk about this in a second. So there are lots, remember, 4 hours worth of slides that I don't have here. We went to a cemetery for graves of the soldiers, much like our Arlington, but this was for North Vietnamese soldiers. And the caretaker had been in the war, and he wanted to know if any of our group had, and Bill had. He wanted to meet him personally, and he was very warm and gracious with Bill. He had told us his story, but he said, do you have bitter feelings toward Americans? And to every single person, they said, absolutely not. We welcome you. We don't. And we asked our leader about that, and he said it has to do a great deal about their Buddhist religion. I don't know all the tenets, but he said that one of the basic tenets of the Buddhist religion is that when you wake up each morning, it is the new day. You leave the past behind you, you live in the glory of today, and you don't worry about tomorrow. So I really think they live that belief. And it wasn't insincere, any of their warmth. It was very sincere. Yeah.
Good to hear.
Yes, isn't it? That was a surprising thing. So anyway, this particular picture is from a Tet ceremony, because so you asked me if we saw anything special, and this was one of the things that was very special. There are many, many, many rivers in Vietnam, and in this particular city called Hoi An, the whole city is covered all the time with beautiful silk lanterns everywhere. You just can't even grasp how gorgeous it is. But we took a boat ride. It was really a junk down this river. We got on a little bit before sundown. And as the lights went out on Earth, the lights on all of these hundreds, I'm going to say thousands of boats covered in silk lanterns lit up, just making a spectacular view. And so this is one of the shots from that river ride. And that's one of the things they definitely do for the Tet. A parade of boats just lit up beautifully with their silk lanterns. So here is, these aren't quite in sequence. Okay, so here we are in a French city up in the mountains. It's called Dalat. And the French created this city. There's a lake right in the middle of it. And when French were in charge of Vietnam, of course, until about mid-47, I think it was around 47, don't hold me to that, but around then. And that's when then Ho Chi Minh's groups started fighting the French and gaining control back. So it ended up that the country was split. The North Vietnam was under the rule of Ho Chi Minh and communists, and South Vietnam was still under the rule of the French. So anyway, this city in the mountains, gorgeous city, had been founded by the French. Vietnamese were not allowed to go there unless they were servants or, worked for the French. And it was spectacular. So in the middle of that city was this beautiful lake, and people were it was a pretty day. People were out in these swan boats, like paddle boats, just enjoying it. It was a very beautiful area. So we'll see.
I can see the impact of water, water being, and as you mentioned to us, the geography of the country was quite different, wasn't it, from north to south?
Mm-hmm. North Vietnam, it's a very long, I didn't realize that there was such a distance from north to south. It's as far from the most northern part of Maine, touching the Canadian border, to Key West. So that's a big difference in heat. We were kind of cold in Hanoi, even though we had layers. And then you're in the tropics. So yeah. So around, this particular slide. So around a lot, it's a very rich agricultural area. And we went to some farms. And the first farm, very unique, was a cricket farm. They showed us how they raised crickets. And I hope the next one is of Bill and I tasting crickets. So if Joe can make.
When I saw you show this slide, I was wondering if anyone did partake. And then when you showed I think the next slide, we'll see if it's you and Bill actually.
There we are, and Barbara. There we are. So you see the plates in front of us, and there's a little orange circle of chili sauce. That made it really good. I have to tell you that, like, from the time we stopped and got off our bus, I kept telling myself, okay, you can do this. You can do this, right? You really should do this. We're here, right? I did it. It was pretty good. But
what did you tell me it was deep fried, or were these more, how were they prepared?
Yeah, oh yeah, they were deep fried. And you know what? They tasted a lot like when my mother used to make fried chicken, and then the little crumbly flour and skin that went, you mixed all that into the gravy. That's what they tasted like. They were nice and crunchy and anything deep fried, right?
Yes, true.
So there's proof that we ate them. We really did. You know, a country has known starvation, though, when they figure out how to eat crickets, right?
True.
So this is back in Hanoi, this particular picture. And we visited a home of this gentleman. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's different. Okay. So we are we're in Dalat, and we visited an indigenous community. The Ko people, and it's spelled in our alphabet, K''HO, the Ko people, were the indigenous people there on the mountain. And they were relocated, much like we relocated Native Americans to reservations. They were moved to communities where they had to live. So we visited this home. The man, as I'm looking at the picture on my right, is the mayor, or the village chief, and he's well into his 90s. He and his wife, neither one had glasses, neither one had hearing aids. They were just amazing. And then on his right, to my left, is his interpreter. So he shared with us, he's very well known in the area and respected. So maybe the next slide will be his wife. She is a famous weaver. There she is. This is how she sits to weave. And they had something like 16 children. She corrected him about some children information, as we women often have to do to us fathers. No, that was our third child.
But she was equal in age to him, probably. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and she sits like this and still is her weavings, her fabrics are still very much in demand. Yeah. Okay, where are we here? Oh, okay. So now we are in Saigon, which is now called Ho Chi Minh City. And this is an example of the way the city streets were lit up for Tet. It was really, truly beautiful. Lights everywhere. Just amazing. There's some more street scenes. How beautiful that it was.
Very, very developed.
I was shocked. It is, we could have been in Chicago with that river running through it. It's lots of high rises. It's a beautiful city. Here, I just captured this at sunset. Isn't that beautiful with that pink sky? Not that, I know it's blurry in spots, but it was just a beautiful time. Yeah. We were on our way to, we were walking through the old section of town. We had a great hotel there. We were in walking distance to all this plaza. And we were walking to a high, actually, we were going to be up really high in a restaurant. So I hope those pictures are there. Walked through the historic district and saw lots of government buildings. Was built during the French era. It's the Opera House. A lot of political meetings took place there during the war. U.S. soldiers and generals and a lot of media people lived and worked around this area. But the Opera House is gorgeous. And this is one of the high-end department stores and hotels. So Louis Vuitton, we walked by a Louis Vuitton store, right? I mean, you could have been, like I said, downtown Chicago. Yeah, it was very amazing. I hope I have the pictures of this is a government building. This is like a pedestrian plaza. So they had closed the street quite a while ago and it's all brick. So only pedestrians there, no traffic. And then the lotus flower is in the middle of a big fountain, and in the back is a beautiful government building from the French era.
It does have that French, it still has that French
right
appeal, right?
Right, the architecture and so forth. So that skyscraper in the back, it's where we were walking to for dinner that year. Well, we were actually just having drinks and snacks. We had dinner elsewhere, but anyway, that's where we were headed. And this was just a beautiful, beautiful walk that evening. Yeah, I can't really see. I think these are just some more street scenes. Is that the one with McDonald's? It's tiny.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see the golden arches right there.
You just can't get away from McDonald's, right? No matter where you are.
And I'm noticing they have scooters.
Oh, yeah. Main transportation was motorcycles. And the most challenging thing everywhere in Vietnam was crossing the street, because, they don't pay attention to traffic lights or anything, but they are they hardly ever have accidents, except for the pedestrians like us, who you see a motorcycle coming near you or coming toward you. And what do? You stop, right? Wrong, because they have gauged how fast you are walking. And if you stop, they're going to hit you. So I just learned to walk, don't look, and our leader would say, sticky rice, sticky rice. In other words, stay really close together and sticky don't look.
Rice? Is that what he said? Sticky rice?
Said, sticky rice, sticky rice, sticky rice. Be tight, and don't stop, whatever you do, or you will die. Yeah, they zip around like crazy on their motorcycles. Yeah. Now, what do we have here? Oh, you know what? This is back. Is this back to Hoi An with the beautiful boats all lit up? Yeah. Okay.
How long does the celebration go on?
It's a month long.
For a month.
It lasts a month. Yeah. Okay. And by the way, I think this is interesting. Of course, this isn't. This is the year of the rat. Just so y'all know. We said goodbye to the year of the pig, and now we welcome to the year of the rat. And I'm not quite sure the significance of the rat, but I thought it was appropriate, right?
Did you include any photos when you told us about the rats? Did you include any of those?
No, that was Cambodia, so I did not.
Oh, yeah. That was Cambodia. Okay.
Yeah, that was Cambodia. Okay, so this picture is back in. It's near the demilitarized zone. It's an ancient capital called Hue, Hue, and this is the citadel, and then behind there is the Forbidden City, where the king, it was just massive. That's where he lived, and it was more like his city in there. It was amazing. And this is a picture of our group. Like you would take a picture of the Eiffel Tower, right? So this is the spot where you take the picture here in Hue.
Well, I remember these then too.
Yeah.
You were on the water and yeah.
Yeah, when we were traveling there in Hoi An, and it was sundown, and we started seeing the boats with all the silk lanterns. We had seen several of these bucket boats in other tributaries and some other rivers just as we had entered this area. So our leader said that, oh, these are so popular, they're a very ancient thing, but now they race them. And I just thought, this is like rub-a-dub-dub, 3 men in a tub, right? So they pulled up alongside our boat and said, you want to take a ride? And we did it. It was so much fun. You could get those things spinning, and I can't even imagine how hard they are to maneuver in a race. But of course, they know how to do it.
You had your, and now was that the tour guide or was that
No,
a boatsman
no.
that was okay?
That's a boatsman who pulled up and talked it. You know, I'm sure our tour guide tipped him well. Okay, I was hoping this would be here. So one of the important things of Tet that they do, and I had learned about this teaching music to the children in Lebanon. We had a little unit on Vietnam and the Tet, and we learned some songs. But one of the things, they put candles and flowers and float them on the river with their prayers and their wishes for the new year, for the Tet. And we got to do that. So we're on the boat, and here I am. The flower is made of paper, and there's a candle inside. And so we each, launched our wishes and our prayers for the new year. It was very, very special.
Very touching.
This is back in Hanoi. And we went to this family's home for lunch. They taught us how to make spring rolls, how to make the rice paper. And so that was part of our appetizers for a lunch. But the man told us his story of having served in the war, and his wife had waited for him. It was just a real tender story. His son and his grandson were there, and he had a collection of folk instruments, very old folk instruments, and he demonstrated, played them for us, sang for us. It was very special. And then my husband, who's very talented musically, of course, he had to try his hand at it. So
sure. And you were actually in their home.
Yes, this is in their.
This
is in their living room. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, okay. In Hue, when we were inside the Forbidden City, this is one of the scenes inside. The buildings were very interesting, painted so beautifully. But I loved it that so many of the people were dressed in traditional costume. And so I took this picture of mother and her daughter, their conical hats, and lovely people, really. Here, isn't this a beautiful dress? Out for their day there. And then when we left Hue, we took a dragon boat ride down the Perfume River. And so obviously this is a dragon boat, right? Looks like a dragon. That was a fun day too. Let's see. Okay, so remember when I said Hoi An was a city filled with silk lanterns that were lit up? Here's a picture of some of the lanterns, although that whole street would have been lit up with all different colored lanterns. It's very beautiful.
And is this part of like the open air markets and so forth?
This would be like being in downtown Lebanon, just lots of shops on either side of the street, but they're all decorated with silk lanterns, and they had a lot of their wares outside because the weather was beautiful, but then they would take them in later. This is just one of the signs that of the city of Hoi An.
What was the weather like while you were there, temperature wise?
Well, of course, it was really quite chilly in Hanoi because that's way far north, and I had lots of layers. I prepared, but it was also rainy. It's just that damp cold that goes to your bones. So I, of course, had to buy a hoodie on the street where they make all of our sports clothes over there. So that was a great place to buy it. But then by the time we got to Hoi An, it was just very, very nice, probably in the upper 70s, lower 80s, just beautiful. Now, this fruit stand was in that French city of Dalat. But you could have found this in any city we went to. These were their open air markets, their farmers markets. They were preparing food. You could buy just any kind of beautiful vegetable, seafood, chicken. I didn't see pork, but they were beautiful. It was displayed so beautifully. It was like a piece of art, really. And this is another picture walking across the bridge in Dalat, that lake I told you about. That was in the middle of the city.
It's the flowers. It just you had so many photos of how the beautiful public.
Well, one reason the French love this area, and this is right in front of the Palace of Dalat, is because it was elevated so much. The climate was much like France. So they they imported all of their plants from France to feel like they were at home. So yeah, it was beautiful, and the gardens were gorgeous. And of course, the French who lived here were extremely wealthy. So I'm hoping the next picture might be the palace. It's now, there's the Palace of Dalat. It's now a hotel, a 5-star hotel. But this would have been the palace of the reigning French governor during that period of when they ruled this country. Oh, there we're back to the crickets. Those are the crickets we ate.
And then they always seemed like there was some sauce on the side, right?
So this is a little chili sauce on the side. Looks like an egg yolk. That's the chili sauce. Okay, really close to our hotel in Dalat, like 2 blocks, was the Crazy House. People said, you've got to go see the Crazy House. And we were able to do that. So it is huge. It covers probably at least a city block. A woman built it, and she still lives there. An architect. I think she definitely was under the influence of Gaudi from, his cathedral in Barcelona, because it was that same idea. Everything she made out of cement, but it looked like trees, and it looked like tree roots and tree trunks, and you could actually stay here. Now, you had to be pretty tough to climb all the steps to get to your room, but here's some steps. We did go through all of it. It was just amazing. And this is what your granddaughter likes so much, right?
I was going to say, this was the little notebook I took all my notes in through all my classes, and Amelia grabbed it right here, and she started sketching what she saw of the Crazy House, and she did like 10 pages worth of sketching. And luckily, what I had done is I had taken my phone and I had taken pictures of your pictures on the screen. So I had them on my phone. So afterwards, we used my pictures of your pictures, and then she studied them a little more to capture. But it was very intriguing to her. She loved the staircases and everything that you showed us.
Oh, yeah. This would have been a old kids as well as young kids, delight. It was really fun. The woman, I'm not quite sure how she came up with these amazing ideas, but this, it's just terrific. So these are just some more shots of the Crazy House from different angles.
I had to explain to Amelia that meant that she was just very unique and very artistic, so that she just kind of did her own thing when it came to architecture.
That's right. So this shot, we took a gondola ride the last day we were in Dalat before we went to Ho Chi Minh City, and this is just a shot which I think demonstrates really well the French influence of this city. These are more modern day, but of course there's a huge influence of French, and it's a very upscale area. So I don't know what the price would have been, but okay, we're back in Ho Chi Minh City, just another street scene, and you really can't capture it, but this does a pretty good job. I mean, it's quite amazing how the streets are decorated with lights and how it's lit up. Let's see, what am I looking at there? I can't tell what that is.
Maybe it's on the edge of a lake, in the middle of the city. Would that have been Deloitte?
Oh, okay. I'm not sure what I was looking at, but this is in Ho Chi Minh City, the downtown. You know, we had passed Louis Vuitton, those high-end stores. So here's some window shopping. Aren't these amazing? So they're in the Vietnamese dress style. You can tell these would be just so expensive, but I love these. I wish we had had time to go into the shops, because here's the other one. I love this one too. Isn't that great?
The fabric is just so amazing. I mean, you know, the designs on the fabric are so.
And these would have definitely been silk, you know. This is the hotel in Ho Chi Minh City. This, you know, we're still in that area that was the pedestrian area, but this hotel is where the military, the U.S. military, held their press briefings every night. They met there for important media information. So the press people, like the AP press and so forth, they would stay there. There's a bar on top. They all kind of hung out there and got to know one another. So that was an interesting piece of history. Of course, it's still an acting, very nice hotel. This is the post office, another important architecture. Thank you. I couldn't get archaeology out of my head. Architectural building there in downtown Ho Chi Minh City, designed by the French. It was a very, very cool building.
Do the French still, you know, go to Vietnam in a similar way, I wonder? I mean, are they residents or tourists?
Because they were defeated, and so their influence is still there greatly. A large percentage of South Vietnamese, and I don't think it's huge, but I think it's like 40% are Catholic. That was from the French days. Their architecture, of course, but that's a good question. I'm not sure. My guess is maybe not, because they would have been the defeated enemy they were run out. But I'm sure there are still some French there, and I'm sure there was some intermarriage, or at least children as a result. Mm-hmm. I do know that the one family we met in Hanoi, we haven't had a picture of them. They had been quite wealthy before Ho Chi Minh took over. And is that the last slide? Thank you, Joe. So some of their relatives had helped them get back artwork, get back ancient and family antiques, and they were living in France, the relatives who were helping them. So there was that connection, maybe people who immigrated to France during that period and stayed, or they still have the connections of family. But as far as how many French might still live there, I don't know.
And you also took another side trip that you might mention.
Well, these tour companies always offer a pre-trip and a post-trip, which we've never done before. And the people in our groups who have really enjoyed them. So the couple that told us we should go to Vietnam said, do the post trip of Cambodia. You know, it is so worth it. And we did. So we did, because we thought, well, we're never really going to be there again, probably. We might as well do it. So we spent 5 additional days at the end of the trip in Cambodia. And yeah, I would highly recommend it. It was very interesting, very, very different. Cambodia, Vietnam is definitely a very developing country. They're doing extremely well economically, as you can see by their cities.
Sure.
Cambodia has been at war. Those poor people. I mean, I think since 2020, for 20 years, they've been totally at peace. But before that, you know, the Khmer Rouge, which we learned about more and talked about, it was just a brutal time in their history. So anyway, it was very interesting. So there's another show for you, Shelley.
There we go. I mean, I think, and you did share with us some of your visits to some of the war of the wars that have been fought there.
The memorial to the killing fields, which we went to. Yeah, that was very sobering.
And the fact, though, that you gain just a deeper understanding
Right.
of that area in general, I think
Right.
is so important.
Yeah,
You know,
it is. And you know, the other thing that's so amazing to me, the bottom line is, it doesn't matter where we go in the world, the first and most important thing of all people is the well-being and love of their children. And it was so evident everywhere we went that family, oh my goodness, family in Vietnam is everything. And in groups where we met the children, like in Cambodia, when we were on the boat, the people who live on the lake, the grandparents were babysitting for their little 1-year-old granddaughter. It was just the most precious thing. Their relationship was just heartwarming.
Those universal values.
Absolutely.
That
Absolutely.
no matter where you travel in the world,
Right.
there's some of those universal things. To be grateful for you to be able to share your experiences with us, I thank you so much. And
it was a pleasure, Shelley. Thank you for having me.
I wanted to mention also that the whole topic of diversity and equity and inclusion is going to be featured at our upcoming Think Regional Southwest Ohio Summit on Friday, April 23rd, 2021. It's a reschedule from our date in 2020. We're hoping to do it in person, but if not, we'll do it online. But I think that whole topic is so timely because once again, getting to know people, their cultures, their customs, and just becoming, creating relationships could go so far and benefit us wherever we go, that I would encourage folks in our audience to maybe we could contact MaryEllen if you're interested in knowing more about the other trips that you took, and we might feature those, later on another episode or 2 or 3 or 8 of Feelin Good. Would you mind giving any contact information if people want to find out more, or if you would talk to other groups? I don't know, maybe now that you have the slideshow together, there might be people that want to hear, they want to see the other 4 hours.
I don't know if we have time for that, but we can condense it. And I would I would love to. It's fun for me to relive the trip by putting it together, as I did for ILR. But certainly, do you want me to give my email address now, or how should we do that?
We'll share the contact information with Joe, and then he can post it.
Wonderful.
He can post it online and
Okay.
so forth. So
That would be great. I'd be happy to.
on behalf of my family, I wish your family and our audience's families a very happy and healthy holiday, and all the holidays that are coming up. So we hope that you join us again, and we hope that you're feeling great. Bye for now.